auspicious greeting. Welcome back to the core teaching class. Last class, we talked about the Noble Eightfold Path, which is an ancient path that has been traveled by the past Buddha. So all Buddha has followed and practiced such a path. And then they realized the Dharma and attained Buddhahood. If all Buddhas can liberate from following this path, it also means that all of us, as long as we practice the Noble Eightfold Path, we too can realize the Dharma and ultimately attain Buddhahood. The most important thing is, of course, we really walk the walk after we talked the talk last time, but now we really need to practice it in our daily life. Otherwise, it would not help us at all. It would only be like the book on the shelf. We read it and we'll leave it there, but it has nothing to do with our life. So I really do encourage all of us to really try it out and practice this path in our life. We know that the Buddha attained enlightenment under the Bodhi trees. But what did the Buddha realize under the Bodhi trees? The Buddha realized what we call dependent origination. So this is what we're going to talk about for this class. Dependent origination is a key concept in Buddhism, and it is the most significant or special teachings in Buddhism. This is distinguished from other religions, I would say. From learning about the life of the Buddha, we knew that the Buddha didn't create his teachings. He only discovered it and then tell us about it. He once said that even if he was not born in this world, the Dharma would still be here waiting for us to discover it, because this is like the law of the universe. This is how everything runs. So he didn't create it, he only discovered it. So there are times when the Buddha was not alive in this world, but there are some practitioners who contemplate upon dependent origination and really realize the Dharma and attain an awakening. They're called the Praktya Buddha. So of course, this also shows us that it accords with what the Buddha said. As long as we contemplate and also observe for ourselves, we too can realize the Dharma and really gain an awakening. Now, it then begs the question of, what is dependent originations? Dependent origination is a translation for the Pali word praktika sumupada. So there are two parts to this word. The first part, praktika, it refers to interdependent, and samupada refer to simultaneously. So it means that all phenomena arise independent of other phenomena. So all these phenomena exist together at the same time. This is how this come above. This is sort of like the prayer bead that you see in these pictures. If we want to have this prayer bead, there need to be a string to hold on to all these prayer beads, to all these beads, I should say. And of course, if you have a few beads less, then probably you can't wear it on your arm. So only if you have the right amount of beads and you have a string to hold these beads together, then you would have this prayer beads. So all these conditions need to be there in order for this to exist. Therefore, we can say that dependent originations means all phenomena arise from causes and conditions. Nothing arise by themselves independently. In plain language, it means that all phenomena arise from the coming together of various factors. The commentary on the Suragama Sutra states that all teachings, from the simplest to the most profound, says that phenomena do not exist outside of causes and conditions. Again, this is what we have just talked about. When the Buddha explained about dependent origination, he said, when this is, that is. When from the arising of this comes the arising of that. When this isn't, that isn't. From the cessation of this comes the cessation of that. It seemed like a tongue twister, but then what this mean is that all phenomena arise from causes and conditions. And if you're missing any of the conditions, then the result would not exist, would not come to be. So in sum, basically we're saying what we have said before, causes plus the required conditions would give rise to this effects. So without the proper causes or without the proper conditions, this effects would not come to be. It will not exist. So the cause here is basically the primary direct requirement that leads to the arising of this final phenomenon. And the conditions are the external or indirect requirement that help to produce the phenomenon, like all the supporting factors. Causes and conditions themselves are also phenomena that arise from other causes and conditions. But of course, some phenomena are labeled causes and others are labeled conditions. We label it as such, it's just to help us to understand how phenomena arise, but it doesn't mean that they're always causes or they're always conditions, because all these causes and conditions are also the effects of other causes and conditions. It really depends on the angle that you view this from. A very simple example to help illustrate this is planting a seed. And to plant a seed into a plant, I should say. So the seed, of course, is the direct cause here. And for the seed to grow, what do we need? Of course, we need a lot of other supporting conditions. So there are the waters, there are the sunlight, there are the air, there's the soil and nutrients. And of course, there need to be someone to take care of it. So you need all these supporting conditions in order for this plant to grow. Think about, if I have a seed, but I just put it on the table, would the seed grow? It would not, because it doesn't have the conditions for it to grow. Even if I leave the seed here for 100 years, it will not grow. So let's say if I put the seed in the soil, but then I didn't give it any sunlight and water, would it grow? It probably would not, because it needs water to grow and the sunlight, of course. So without all these conditions, the seed would not grow. So only if we have all these requisite conditions would the seed grow into a plant and then bloom flowers and so on. So this is the same for everything else. We need all these conditions to be there, like all the causes and conditions, like their supporting conditions, before the phenomena would come to be. And when we're learning about dependent origination, there are also a few points that we need to keep in mind. Okay, the first, effects always arise from causes. So if there is a cause and if the conditions are right, then the effects would come to be. So you do need the causes and conditions before you have the effects. If there is no causes, or if you're lacking any of the conditions, you will not have an effects, or the phenomenon will not come to be. And so, for example, we just have this Triple Gem Refuge, like an online Triple Gem Refuge ceremony the other day, actually on March 30th. And there were over 2,600 people who participate on this online service. Think about, in order for us to have the ceremony, what do we need? Obviously, we need all the participants. And we need to have the venerables, like the presiding monks, to conduct the ceremony. We need to have the technology, like the Zoom meeting room and all these computer and laptops and so on, and people who are controlling these Zoom meeting room. And of course, we also need all these administrative staff and other conditions as well in order for us to make this happen. If we only have the participant and if there's no venerable, can we still have the ceremony? We can't. And let's say we have the staff, we have the presiding monks and the venerable, and we have the participant, but the Zoom meeting doesn't work. Then can we still have the ceremony? We probably can't. Maybe people in Taiwan can because they're right in the main shrine, but then other people around the world, they wouldn't be able to take refuge in the Triple Jam. So for us to have this big event like this virtual Triple Jam refuge ceremony, we need to have all these causes and conditions. Otherwise, it won't happen. And of course, this is the same for organizing other events, or it's the same for interacting with other people. Like, let's say we want to nurture a good relationship with other people. Obviously, we need to be respectful to others, we need to be considerate, we need to be kind, and we need to communicate. There are all these things that we need to do in order for us to nurture a good relationship with others. And if we don't do it, if we're very rude and if we don't care about others, then probably it's very hard to nurture this good relationship with other people. Okay, and now let us look at the second point. The second point is that causes of a certain type would produce effects that are consistent with that type. So what this means is that if we plant an apple seed, obviously we would have apples on the trees, not oranges. So you reap what you sow, basically. If we do good deed, then we will have good effects and consequences. On the other hand, if we do bad deed, we'll also have bad consequences and bad effects. And so it will always, whatever kind of course you do, you will produce the similar effects. Effects of the same type, basically. And the third point is that all phenomena are temporary. So because they arise from causes and conditions, and they would cease if any of the causes or conditions are not there, because of this, all phenomena are temporary. And basically, they don't have a substantial existence of their own. This is like our cell phone. I'm sure all of us have a cell phone. Basically, we got a cell phone, we get to use the cell phone until one day the battery is dead. So when the battery is dead, then we can't use the cell phone anymore because one of the conditions, one of the parts is not working. So in this case, we'll then need to get a new cell phone. So basically, if any of the conditions or if the cause is not there anymore, then this ultimate effects, like the cell phone, it will cease to be. It doesn't work anymore. Through understanding these points, we would know that dependent origination is not as simple as we think. While we label some phenomena as cause and others as conditions, they're not definite because what we identify as cause or conditions might be an effects for other causes and conditions. And of course, these causes and conditions are also the causes and conditions for the future effects. So an example would be, let us look at the apple trees, like the life cycle of it, I guess. An apple seed is the cause for a new apple tree. However, if we think about the seed itself is also the effects of a current existing apple tree. Otherwise, where does the seed come from? The seed doesn't just come from magic, or it doesn't just arise out of nowhere. Obviously, the apple seed also arises from an apple tree, from other apple tree that is existing right now. But the seed is the effects of that apple trees, but the seed is also the cause for a new apple trees. So of course, as it grows, then it will bloom flowers and give rise to more apple seed. And then the new apple seed would then grow into new trees. So this cycle continues. And so this is why we can never really find the first cause, because even the so-called first cause is also the effects of other causes and conditions. This is sort of like the argument of, okay, does the chicken come first or the egg come first? We won't be able to answer to that. And I mean, there's also no point in trying to find an answer to it because it doesn't help us with getting rid of our afflictions and sufferings. When we're learning about Buddhism, it's always very important for us to keep our goal, which is the cessation of sufferings, in our mind. So as long as we have this goal in mind, then we would always be able to practice correctly and make sure that we're on the right path. And so this is why, if we look back to this, it's always like a cycle. This is also why we never talk about the first cause in Buddhism. All phenomena arise from causes and conditions, and this present cause is also the effects arise from other causes and conditions. So in this way, how can we say there is a first cause or there's an end or the last effects? We won't be able to find that. So at a glance, it seemed that dependent origination is very simple. It seemed like, oh, is it just that formula? But it is actually not as simple as that. The Buddha once told us how wrong we're if we think that dependent origination is simple. He was talking to one of his greatest disciples, Alanda. Venerable Alanda basically said, "Oh, it's amazing, Lord." The Lord here referred to the Buddha. It's astounding how deep this deep co-arising is. Deep dependent co-arising. So this dependent co-arising referred to dependent origination. And how deep it appears, and yet to me it seemed as clear as it can be. The Buddha then said, "Don't say that, Alanda. Don't say that. Deep is this dependent co-arising, and deep its appearance. It's because of not understanding and not penetrating this Dharma that this generation is like a tangled skin, a knotted ball of string, like matted rushes and reeds, and does not go beyond the cycle of the plane of deprivation, woe, and bad destiny." So it is because that we don't truly understand dependent origination that lead us to continue to suffer and migrate in this cycle of life and death. And in other words, if we can penetrate into these teachings, we can be free from our stress and afflictions in life. The Buddha also told us that all phenomena that arise from causes and conditions are impermanent. So what this means is that they are changing all the time. Whatever that is changing, though, it would bring sufferings. Just like in the sutras, the Buddha told us that whatever has been brought into being is fabricated, wielded, dependently originated, that is inconsistent. Whatever is inconstant is stress. Whatever is stress is not me, is not what I am, is not myself. This is the sort of view I have. So the Buddha are telling us that all phenomena are impermanence, like inconstant here refer to impermanence, meaning they are changing all the time. You can never find something that is permanent or that will last forever. So Mr. Abraham Loeb, the chair of the astronomy department of Harvard University, once wrote, "The only thing that remains constant is change." It's very interesting when I saw this passage because it's coming from the chair of an astronomy department. So from their observation, like even through astronomy, like they can observe that the only thing that remain constant is changes. So the only thing that is permanent is actually changes. So meaning that everything is changing all the time. What's true for our life is also true for the universe. In the magazine Scientific America, he also wrote that astronomers quickly realized that not only the universe and its galaxies, but also the stars in them must have been born and eventually will die. So all these existed, even including the stars and galaxy, which seem like, oh, it would be there forever. But no, they're also changing all the time. Like the stars are born and eventually they would die, and then eventually a new star would be born, and so on. So even something that seemed to last forever, like the stars, they are also changing all the time. Everything that is fabricated or being conditioned is subject to change as the conditions change. A very good example is the evolution of computers. So let us first take a look at this video. It shows the evolution of computer from 1936 until now. So from this video, we can see that as we become more advanced in technology, which are the changing conditions, the computers that arise also start to change. We can see that from 1939, it started with a very super huge computer that took up the whole room. Until now, we all have our laptop right in front of us, or just a screen and our keyboard. So the condition change, so the relative effects also changes as the conditions change. Everything is changing all the time, even if we cannot see it. It might be hard for us to see any changes on our tables or on our laptops or on a mountain. However, the advance in science also help support that all phenomena are impermanence. So why is that? So let us take a look at this image that we have in front of us. We can go into the molecular level actually. Everything is made out of atom. Within each atom, it's composed of proton, neutrons, and electrons. All these atoms are actually always floating around. And for the electrons, it would start to interact with the electrons of other atoms. And so around us, all these molecules are basically floating and interacting with each other all the time. So they're dynamic. It's just that our naked eyes currently fail to show this to us, but then it's happening all around us all the time. Like even all these molecules, even all these molecules on the table, they're interacting with the surrounding. So it's very dynamic. Each interactions mean changes. Whenever there's an interactions, there would be a new effects. This new effects would then interact with others to form other result. This is why we can see that for an iron, the iron would rust or paint would fade as time passed by. Just like anything with iron service, like a nail, we see that, oh, it's a nail before, but then given time, it then become a rusted nail. So on the molecular level, we see that the iron molecules are interacting with other molecules in the air. It is only when there is enough product, then we would see the rust. Now let us take a look at this video. So for ourselves, we can obviously see the changes as well. We can see how babies grow up, like they grow and then to children and then until they're young, like a young adult and so on. And of course, we can see changes in ourselves. So I'm sure all of us like cut our nail every week or every 2 weeks. Why do we need to continue to cut our nail? It's because it's growing. So we do see changes in our body as well. Maybe we don't see changes every day, like we didn't see our nail growing every day, but then subtle changes are occurring every day in order to become a big change that we see one day. So if we understand this, we should understand that there is no sudden change. All phenomena are changing every moment. There is a very good analogies of impermanence in one of the sutras. If we look at this image, impermanence is like a river. It never ceases. It continues to flow. It might look or seem the same, but the waters that is flowing in it, it's different every single moment. This is the same for all phenomenon in the world. Nothing ever stays still or permanent. Everything is changing all the time. For us, we're usually unaware of this fact until a major change occurred. Then, when the major change occurred, we may not be able to accept it when it happened. For example, we might have neck and shoulder pain from work. I'm sure from time to time, sometimes we do have neck and shoulder pain. And we have to understand that these neck and shoulder pain, they doesn't just arise overnight. But it might be an accumulation from a bad sitting posture from work every day, and then it accumulates up to a point, then it become pain on the neck and shoulder. And normally we didn't notice the effects of a bad sitting posture until we have the pain. Now that we learn and understand what dependent origination is, how does it help us in our life? How can we apply this in our life? First, I think learning about dependent origination should teach us to be very grateful for everything. Imagine this. You're going home from a day of work and you have this bowl of rice and all these dishes of food right in front of you. But I'm wondering, or ask yourself this, have you ever taken time to really contemplate what are the causes and conditions behind this bowl of rice? This is actually one of the 5 contemplation that we're supposed to do when we're eating in the dining hall. So next time when you eat, I hope that you can take some time to contemplate about all the causes and conditions that are behind the food in front of you. If we just look at our bowl of rice, like where does it come from? Obviously, someone need to farm it, like plant it on a farm, and then take care of it, and then harvest it. After they harvest it, then they need to send it to transport it to the manufacturer for processing and packaging. And after it's packaged, it would be transported to the market. And after it's transported to the market, then you will need to buy it, like your family might need to buy it. And then once they bought the rice, then someone need to wash it and cook it before it would become a bowl of rice right in front of you. And this is just causes and conditions behind a bowl of rice. Can you imagine there you also have this 3 to 4 dishes of food in front of you? Imagine all the causes and conditions behind them. If we contemplate as such, how can we not be grateful for the meal we have in front of us? How can we not value every single grain of rice? So we should not be wasteful of food. We have to be very grateful that we don't need to grow our own food and process them. And if you can just imagine, if we have to grow our own food, like the rice, the vegetables, and all these other things, then we probably don't need to like live a normal life. We'll just it would almost seem like most of your time are spent for like growing your food or preparing your basic necessities. So right now, we don't need to grow all these food. We don't need to make our own clothing and making our own bed and everything that we need. We don't need to create it. So otherwise, I don't think we can just enjoy life as we do right now. So from this, we can also see that all are interdependent. We need each other to live in the societies. We are one as a whole. Therefore, we need to work together to make this world a better place. And we should be very thankful and grateful for everything that we have. Aside from contemplating about food, we can also take some time and do this contemplation. Ask yourself this: what are the conditions for us to become who we are today, and who help us along the way? Maybe we might say, I achieved the success that I have today is because of my hard work and effort. Of course, our hard work and effort is definitely a very important factors. However, if we think again, like when we can't grow up from a baby until like now, or not, I shouldn't say now, maybe like until you're a teenager without the support of other people. So when we're growing from a baby to children to even teenagers, our parents and family take care of us. We can't take care of ourselves if we're a baby. we need others to take care of us, provide us with food, shelter, clothing, and teach us various life lessons. And of course, as we grow up, we go to school, we have various teachers to give us guidance and also give us an education. There might also be a special mentors who would change our life. Just like Helen Keller, she was blind, and she said that her life was changed when she encountered and met her teacher, Anne Sullivan, who was very kind and very patient with her. So this is how she became so successful and helpful to others in the societies later on. So for some of us, we have the special mentors who might have changed our life along this way. Of course, as we're growing up, we also have friends who accompany us. And not to mention, we have all these basic necessities that are provided for us, like our laptops or phones or movies and other stuff. So we need to like think about, we don't need to spend the time to think about them and making them. And we should even be thankful for the people who give us hardship and difficulties. If we think about it, without going through these hardship and difficulties, we won't grow and gain experience. All the failures and obstacles are the fertilizers for our success. This is just like a beautiful lotus cannot grow into a beautiful lotus without the mud. You do need the mud in order for the lotus to grow to become such a beautiful flowers. This is also why there's an Asian saying that said, failure is the mother of success. Of course, all of us didn't like failure. However, failure is also an opportunities for us to gain experience and learn more from that lessons. So because of learning this experience and learning this lesson, it helped us in our future. And if we look at the Buddha's life, Prince Siddhartha didn't attain enlightenment right away after he left home. He also practiced ascetic practice for 6 years before he attained enlightenment. It might seem like, oh, it's a waste of time. However, if we really think about it, it was such an experience that helped him to realize that only through the middle path would he be able to find the truth. And obviously, the ascetic practice is not the right path. So sometimes if we have not been there and done it and try it out for ourselves, we didn't know that, oh, this is actually not right. We are actually on the wrong path. So this, then it would help us in changing. And of course, whatever that we gain, the lesson that we learn from that failure or from that experience would also be new nutrients for us. Therefore, all kinds of experience, whether it's good or whether they're obstacle or bad for us, they are valuable experience that would teach us something. Just like what Venerable Master Xing told us, he said that when he was young, as he was studying in the Buddhist college, he had this teachers who had a talent of putting all his student into sleep. So basically every single class, the whole class fall asleep, except for Venerable Master Xing. And finally, one day, a classmate asked him, why did you not fall asleep? His class is so, it's just like the atmosphere just put everyone to sleep. And Venerable Master Xing said, it is because I'm trying to figure out why and how he put everyone to sleep, so that in the future, he will not make the same mistake. And this is also how Venerable Master Xing becomes such a great teacher as he did. So having, obviously for us, when we think about it, we might think that, oh, having a bad teacher is so bad. I can't learn anything. So every single class, I just fall asleep. However, for Venerable Master Xing Yin, he didn't feel like it's bad. It actually, he turned it into an opportunities for him to learn to be a great teachers, and he really apply it. So that's why he becomes such a good teachers. So when we think about all these conditions that help and support us into growing who we are today, how can we not be grateful to our families, to our parents, to our friends, to our mentors, and our nations? Venerable Master Shen Yin once said, gratefulness is like firework, which can bring joys in the world. If we have gratitude, our life will be filled with happiness. Learning about dependent originations also tell us that our fate lies in our hand. A cause supported by conditions will become an effect. If we understand this, it means that we are the creator of our futures, because how we would be in the futures depend on what we do right now. As Venerable Master Xing Yun also said, we need to be our own wise friend or our own helping hand. So what he meant by this is that we need to learn to take initiative and be proactive. Instead of waiting for an opportunities to land on us, we need to take initiative to accumulate the conditions that's needed to reach our goal. I'm sure all of us have read Harry Potter's written by Miss J.K. Rowling, and we might think that, oh, she's very famous right now, everyone know about her. But then behind this fame, she didn't become such a successful person right away. She also encountered a lot of hardship in her life. She knew that she wanted to be a writer since she was young, and her parent, who had never received a college education, didn't think that writing is good, like it wouldn't pay for her living. And in her adult life, she lived for years with government assistance as a single mother. She said that I couldn't have written this book if I hadn't had a few years where I've been really as poor as possible to go in the UK without being homeless. And Miss Rowling said in 2012, we were on welfare, what we call welfare, I would call benefits, for a couple years. It was during these years that she wrote Harry Potter's. These years were hard for her. And of course, it's also during those years that she became very depressed to the point where she even considered commit suicide. She said that she used her experience of depression to describe the Dementors in her Harry Potter books. It was entirely conscious, Miss Rowling told the Times, and entirely from my own experience. Depression is the most unpleasant things I have ever experienced. When she did finish her book, she also received a dozen's rejections. But she overcome those rejections until one small publisher printed her book, and then the book became very popular. Miss Rowling became one of the most successful and widely read author. So if we look at Miss Rowling's life, she persisted and continued to write her book despite of the financial hardship and the hardship of raising her daughter as single mothers. But then it's also these years and experience that gave her the time to write the Harry Potter's book. If she just gave up and worked at some place, we might never even see the Harry Potter books. Also, despite of the difficult time when she was young, all these hardship and difficulties that she had become the nutrients and sources of imaginations for her books. Life is always going to shuffle dirt on us. However, whether it's good or bad, it depends on how we view it. Looking at Miss J.K. Rowling's life, we might think that living on welfare without a job and still need to take care of a child would be a very bad situation. It's very hard. However, it is because During those times, her time is more free, that she's able to sit in a cafe and wrote the book. So what we think is bad may not be bad, and what we think is good may not be good either. But then the most important thing is that we should create the conditions to help ourselves to get out of the pit. Things will never be the same. They are changing all the time. As long as we don't give up, we can get out of the deepest pit in our life. And the most important thing is that we need to take it into our hand and think positive. As Venerable Master Xing told us, where there is Dharma, there's way. There will always be a way as long as we apply the Dharma in our life. We will be able to find the solutions. Taking initiative means working hard for your goals and dreams instead of waiting for an opportunities to land on us. Once we work and accumulate the conditions needed for us to reach our goal, we also need to learn to be patient. A lot of time we want to have what we want right away, like we put in the work and effort, we want to see the result right now. However, sometimes time is also a very important factor. We need to be patient. As long as we continue to work hard and accumulate all these conditions, we will reach our goal one day. And also, through learning about dependent originations, we also know that we reap what we sow. So if we do good deed, we will have good effects. And if we do bad deed, we'll have bad effects. So this is telling us that we should also practice what Venerable Master Xing told us, the 3 acts of goodness. Do good deed, say good word, and think good thought. Because what goes around comes around. So as long as we do good and always have a good heart and speak good word, I'm sure all these good and wholesome conditions will always be around us. We should also take up the habit of observing the causes and conditions behind a problem or an obstacle that we're facing. When a situation arises, ask yourself, what are the causes and conditions behind it? What are other factors that's involved? How can I change these conditions so that things would be better? So ask yourself all these questions. A lot of time when something happens, and of course it's because it happened to us, our feelings and emotion will become amplified. As we got trapped within our feelings and emotion, we failed to see the situation with clarities, and therefore we could not make the best judgment. Then also overthinking about the situation increase our afflictions. Let's say we're being wronged by our employer and people misunderstand about us. In such a case, we'll probably feel very unhappy, we'll be angry and helpless, we'll feel very frustrated and agitated, mainly because we never want people to misunderstand who we are. But when this situation happens, we will need to first remind ourselves that whatever that happened, there are causes and conditions behind it. So right now, the most important thing is we need to jump out of the situation and try to view this from a third person point of view and try to see what happened. So in this way, we're not bounded by our emotions. Then we can clearly or calmly observe the causes and conditions behind the situation. It might be because a colleague who spread rumors and gossip due to his jealousies, or it might be because of what we have said or what we have done, or the way that we do things that mislead people. So we need to also have a self-reflections. Is it because of my own speech and my own actions, or the way that I think about things? If this is the case, then I probably need to make a change and corrections. Or if this is because someone spread false rumors and gossip about us, then we also need to learn to be patient and just let it go. Sometimes, if you just try to argue and defend yourself and so on, it might make the situation worse. If we're right, ultimately one day people will learn about the truth and learn about the truth about us. Because causes and conditions are impermanence, like things will change. It will not always be the same. You would never always be in the same situation. Instead of being angry, we should work harder to prove others wrong. As Venerable Master Xing Yun said, we should put in more effort instead of dwelling in anger. Also, we can also try to understand where the person is coming from. All of us think the way that we do or act the way that we do due to our cultural background or due to the way that we're brought up, due to a lot of reasons. And a lot of time, it's about how we think about the hardship as well. If we are positive and think that, oh, this is nutrients for me, it helped me grow, then it will be nutrients for our future success. Always remember that the current causes and conditions is always the best one for us, even if we suffered from it. It might be the lessons that we need to learn. It might be the experience that we need to gain in order for us to succeed in our futures. So if we look back to Miss J.K. Rowling's life, it really reflects as such. Though she encountered lots of hardship in her life, all these serve as a nutrients for her books. And it is because of these nutrients it lead to her current success. Sometimes when we encounter a situation, we should observe the causes and conditions of it and accept it if it's beyond our control. For example, after the pandemic started, we're in lockdown and if we go out, we have to wear a face mask and keep social distance. A lot of people become very negative and angry about it because life has changed and they can't do what they want to do. However, think about this. Can we ask the pandemic to stop? The obvious answer is no. The pandemic doesn't stop just because we want it to stop, because this is the current causes and conditions. And because we cannot change the current causes and conditions, then we should change. What we can change is how we think about it. We should first learn to accept that, okay, this is the current causes and conditions, and I cannot change that, and this is what's happening. So when I start to accept that it's the current causes and conditions, the next step is to tell ourselves that we should change the way that we think about the situation. Okay, so although I'm in lockdown and I need to stay at home, but then maybe I can enjoy this time to be with my family, or read the books that I never get a chance to read, or learn something new online from online courses, or do things that we never seem to have time to do. So if you think about it that way, then it doesn't feel so bad, because now you get to have time to do what you never have time to do. And always remember that things will change because all causes and conditions are impermanent. They're changing all the time. So we need to learn to be positive. If we look at the tsunami that happened in Japan around 2011, when it happened, people are devastated because all their homes are destroyed and everything are destroyed. However, as time passed, the city that got affected are also slowly being rebuilt and people's life go back to normal. So things would change. It will not be bad forever, but of course it won't be good forever as well. So we should always be in the middle path. So let us take a look at this video.
Calm down, deep breaths, and get yourself dressed. Instead of running around and pulling on your threads and breaking yourself up. If it's a broken part, replace it. If it's a broken arm, then brace it. If it's a broken heart, then face it. And hold your own, know your name, and go your own way. Hold your own, know your name, and go your own way. And everything will be fine. Hang on, help is on the way, and stay strong. I'm doing everything.
Another implication about dependent origination is that causes and conditions will change, so we should also learn to let go. If we continue to cling to the native things that happen in our life, we will have a lot of afflictions and we won't be happy. If people slandered you, instead of feeling angry and respond or react to it, you should think that this emotion that arises is not certain. So think about it. You see someone, or you hear someone gossiping about you, you're angry. But before you hear people gossiping about you, where's your anger? So this anger is not there all the time. It's also changing all the time. So maybe you hear someone gossip about you, you get angry, but then afterward, you went back to the office and your boss compliment you and you become very happy. So as you can see, our feelings, they're changing all the time. It just depends on what's happening at the moment. So our feeling is not certain. Also, we should always think that nothing arises out of no causes and conditions. So if you understand all the causes and conditions behind it, then we would be able to understand where things come from and resolve the situation. There's really no difficulties or problems if we're willing to let go. Most of the time, it is because we hold on to the feelings that we have and we hold on to the self and how people view us, that we trap ourselves. If we just let go, then we'll realize that our afflictions and our emotions disappeared like smoke. And we might even realize that there isn't a so-called difficulties or a problems. This is like a monkey who discovered a banana inside a coconut. And of course, the reason why he saw this banana in the coconut is because there's hole on the coconut shell. And so he put his hand in and tried to grab the banana. And of course, he couldn't take it out because the banana, it's lying horizontal, so it's too big for it to come out the hole. And so at this point, he has his hand in the coconut, holding onto the banana. If he's not willing to let go, then the monkey would die from hunger. But however, if he let go of this banana, which is inside of the coconut, then he will be able to go into the forest and find other banana. So it won't be a difficulties anymore. It's only become a burden or an obstacle if he's not willing to let go, if he just continue to hold on to the banana. So this is the same for us when we're facing our problems. Try not to hold on to these negative feelings. Always think positive. Things are changing all the time. So there's always hope. There's always a lot of hope. Having said all that, I hope that through learning about dependent origination, everyone will learn to take initiative and seize opportunities. Because remember, we are the creator of our future and of our life. We should learn to observe causes and conditions and know that things are changing all the time. And because it's changing all the time, there's always hope. I hope that you would also take some time and contemplate about dependent originations and how it can help you in facing the problems you might have in your life. And next week, we're going to continue with dependent origination, but we'll be learning about the causes and conditions behind how we travel from one life to another's. And so, last but not least, thank you for listening and please take care and stay safe. 阿弥陀佛。